of times when you've got to use your own judgment and carve, do things according to what you've learned from other journeyman stone carvers. A fellow can learn all the time. You can pick up, especially a lot of different jobs come in, you can learn a lot of different things. In other words, you've got to figure out a lot of stuff too. You've got to use your own judgment, you know. You can't just, it's not like working from going to art school. When you go to art school, you just you work from some established things or models. It's all, in other words, stock stuff. And here in the Stonebelt and under apprenticeship, why, you get plenty of time to learn the tricks of the trade and how to go about using your own judgment to figure out stuff in the everyday carving.
Well, it would have to be gained first from a large block to a certain size, and then it would come in here, the saw here, and we'd cut it down to smaller size, to whatever length, width, height they wanted, and then it would go from us maybe to the planer if there was any planing work on it, and then from there to the joint saw, maybe to joint at whatever length it's supposed to be, and then from there we'd go to the cutter shed, and the cutter would do the carving on the black diamond, which comes from Africa, and they pulverize it. And they put it in this metal, they melt this metal, and they put the diamond in it. It sets it up in a form, and then your diamond is all pulverized all through the metal. And as your saw turns, why, the metal wears away, and the diamond sticks out, and that's what does your cut. And there's nothing no harder than this diamond. And then the blade here, it has to be hammered with certain speed, whatever it runs. It's got a dish in it. It works either way, but it has to be hammered for a certain speed. And if you crowd it over that speed, you've got to walk. See, this saw runs 1100 RPM, and when it hits at 1100, this grades right up. But otherwise, it dishes. Now, I have run stiff blades too, but they don't run as quite as good. If you crowd a stiff blade pretty hard in the stove, why, it'll run off. See, this blade here will vary a little, maybe run a little, but then you can slow her down and it'll come right back. The diamond, as it wears, it just wears out. And sometimes you have to use sandstone, which I have over there, or maybe cut the water down low in the stone, or cut the water off and do a little dry cut. But that brings out the diamond. Or maybe you make several cuts with low water pressure. A whole lot of water will dull the diamond. This is an operation here. This moves me forward, or either north or south here. This does here. And then here is the power that starts it. This turns your power on. Then you have two buttons here to tilt the blade down or back. And then here is your feed. It regulates the feed, how fast you saw crossways. And this is your forward button here. This is your reverse to back it up. And then I have another button, two buttons here. One here raises the blade, which it's doing right now. And then I have another here that will raise it back down, lower it back down. And then this button here stops the carriage. This button here tilts it. Tilt it forward, and then here's another that tilts it down. And then this other one will bring it back up, I hope. And then you have your reverse to go backwards. And by the way, this saw will saw coming or going backwards, either way you want to go with it. Of course, you can only saw about a foot high going backwards. And it turns a matter of 1100 RPMs. Has 100 teeth in it. Black diamonds in metal, carbide. And then in the process of sawing, while you have to get your stone ready, you have to check it for plumb, which I can show you in a minute how you plumb the stone, and you plumb, and then your blade, by the way, after you tilt it, you have to go check it and plumb it back up. So it'll be sawing plumb up and down. I have a square over yonder. Now what we have to do, we have to get out here and we have to plumb the stone with the saw, or plumb the saw with the stone, vice versa. And this is the process we're going to go through and show you what we have to do here to do this. Well, we take a square, which this is it, the square right here, and we take the square and we play it on top of the stone like this, and we shove it up. Which, this is very good. It's plumb now. Are these some of the master carvers back here?
Yeah.
Referring to as a plastic model for the architecture. You see, the figure of Washington was done in plasticine first, modeled in clay. Well, so was this, and then this was cast in plaster. So here you got the one-to-one relationship. For the very delicate work, he's using a very small air hammer. He's doing very precise work. How many years did you spend on your apprenticeship?
I spent 4 years on apprenticeship. So I've been working on it for a good while.
Yeah.
About 50 years.
50 years. You've been doing this for 50 years? Huh? You've been doing this for 50 years?
Yeah, about 50, yeah.
Did you start out doing stuff like this that you're doing here?
Oh, no. It's more simple stuff.
Oh, yeah? Nice. Did you carve out any of these figures?
Yeah, I did all the heads and faces. I mean, all the heads and hands. I did some body work. I did all the
Where did you learn to carve heads?
and I studied some books.
What is your name?
Frank, Lorena.
Frank Lorena?
Lorena, Frank, Lorena. Lorena. He wants to keep that one.
How long you been doing this?
Since 1922, 53 years. Long enough, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you like it?
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be out here working at it if I didn't. I retired 7 years ago.
They called you back to do this special work? Did you ever do anything like this when you were working at the job?
Well, all kinds of trick work and everything like that. There's nothing, just not like this. Exactly.
A lot of carving and...
Oh, yeah. You pointed around Cincinnati?
What?
Cincinnati.
Columbus, Indiana. Not far.
I say, are you acquainted around Cincinnati?
No, not really.
Well, I done a 24-foot figure of Christ the King, went on Christ the King Church. It's going to tear it down, see? They decided to keep it for a landmark. The city rode in and helped fix it all up. I done a 24-foot figure of Christ the King that went up on the tower. On his head, the height of his chin whiskers, the top of his crown was 39 inches.
Woo, when did you do that?
Oh, that's been back about 15 years ago, I guess. And they were a bunch of angels out in front, crucifix, put in the church. And
you did all them too? You did all them too?
6 angels.
6 angels?
About 12 feet high. They were standing 3 high on top of each other, facing each other, but they were facing across, see? That's a lot.
How long did it take you to do that? Better part of a summer. A figure of Christ and 6 angels?
Christ the King with a hole in the big ball, see, with a cross on it. And was holding up 2 fingers.
On the figure of George Washington here, who started the carving on that? What was the first stage? Well, who did that?
Well, Jim Kelly gave the lines, and a fellow by the name of Larry Grubb from Birmingham did the main roughing out.
Well, Larry Grubb's a cutter.
Yeah, he's a cutter. He's a cutter. He's not a carver. He couldn't finish.
I see.
Jim finished most of the body, although I couldn't finish the body too.
Did the cutters rough out all the figures?
Yeah, he roughed out the main stuff, the main angles. Jim finished most of the detail, finished most of the body, and I did all the hands and face.
Oh, I see.
But I did some of the body work too.
Okay, well, let's go over and take a brief look at the full figure itself of George Washington.
How did it come about that you started the project from the painting? Why didn't you invent your own idea?
Well, I was going to. They suggested making 6 figures, you know, and I was going to. And we went over east, and so this Mrs. Hutton, was in charge of the bicentennial commission over in Pennsylvania. And I don't know whether she over the whole United States or just over in Pennsylvania. But anyhow, she's the one that suggested we make it like the painting. They showed a film and it was narrated by Chet Huntley, and we watched that, and these other 2 members of the commission were there, these women members. Miss Hutton's one of them, and after it's all over, why they suggested to Merle Eddington and me that we make it like that painting. See, they had this big painting over there.
Let's look at the painting. Have you actually seen the original painting?
Yeah, well, it's not the original painting. It's...
No, but I mean, did you actually have a chance to see the original?
Yeah, well, it's... there's a duplicate painting by a painter by the name of Williams. He duplicated the one by Emanuel Lutz. And it looks just like this, only it's a whole lot bigger than this. See, this is a facsimile, what they'll call a... lithograph, what they want to call it, printed picture of the one by Williams. Or let's see, no, this one by Lutz. This has got the name on it, Emanuel Lutz. But I think a fellow by the name of Williams, painter by the name of Williams, duplicated it, and they've got it hanging over there in the Washington Cross in Pennsylvania.
Well, who came up with the idea that this theme ought to be used?
Merle Eddington.
Merle Eddington.
He called me up, yeah.
And who is he?
The manager of the Chamber of Commerce in Bedford.
Well, the project started right here in October of 1973, which was the same time we dedicated this new Chamber of Commerce building. And our thought was to create some sort of a memorial to the use of Indiana limestone. It's been extensively used in the building of the nation's capital, the Federal Triangle of buildings down there, the Pentagon, the Washington Cathedral. Well, we decided that we would make a statue of an important colonial or Revolutionary War event. And I'd remembered quite well the painting of Loyce's of Washington crossing the Delaware, and knew the story of the Delaware crossing, because that was the first major victory that the young colonial nation had for freedom. That's the first time they really won one, and probably was instrumental in turning the war around completely. Lord Cornwallis said when he surrendered at Yorktown that the war was really won on the banks of the Delaware, back at the Battle of Trenton. So I started looking around at how, when you carve limestone, the first thing you have to do, we do it like the Romans did. We go to the point system. We have to have a model so you can copy the model point to point. And I knew that we would need a model, at least maybe half size, and you had to have somebody to make the model. And I contacted the Sculptors Associations and other, and then I remembered I'd worked with Frank Arena not too long ago on something. Frank was, he and his father had been in the model and sculpturing business here for years. He'd retired, he was 74 years old at that time. When I went to Frank, I talked him into going to Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania with me on Christmas week, 1973. And we walked up and down the banks of the Delaware in the snow on both sides, and we went into the Washington Crossing State Park and their big museum and saw this painting, 21 feet long and 12 feet high, of the crossing of the Delaware. And Mrs. Ann Hawks Hutton, the chairman of the board of the Washington Crossing, convinced us that that was the thing that we should go with. And we talked Frank into, all right, coming back, we'd make the model. Frank started in January 1974 making his model out of clay and pipes and tubes and wood. And we rented a little filling station, an empty filling station out here, and built him a platform on the lift so he could raise it and lower it and work on that. And then after he completed the model, I think it took about 5 or 6 months there, we had the stone donor. We had to start raising money all the time. The Limestone Company donated us, the Indiana Limestone Company donated 1,000 pounds of modeling clay. Dave Elliott, a small stone operator here who has a quarry with this beautiful white stone in it that you've seen the statue of. This is a sample of it. Dave donated all of the stone. Now he's probably quarried 100 tons of this stone to cut away this 28 tons of statue that's left. And we started raising money every way we could, selling souvenirs, asking for contributions. There is no federal money, no government money in the project. It's strictly from donations of the people of the Bedford, Indiana area. And now that it's getting along and people coming in to see it, we get donations from, I got a check the other day from a doctor in Bloomington for $200, and I got a check from a doctor and people in Mitchell, and small amounts, much smaller amounts coming in from all kinds. Everyone is beginning to realize that what we had hoped for at the beginning. At the beginning we thought, well, we'll memorialize the buildings that are a part of the heritage from Indiana and the crossing of the Delaware. But people are getting proud of the project. They're proud, and they want to be a part of, this is a gift to the American people, like the Statue of Liberty was. They want to be a part of saying thank you, or glad that we are appreciative that we are Americans and what it all stands for. And I can see more and more as I talk to people about this feeling coming to a head, and it looks like it'll continue to grow in that vein as time goes on, to the time we finally place it where it's going to be at Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania.
Mr. Hutton, when I was telling you about a while ago, suggested that we make it like the painting because this is more well-known, and all the school kids, you know, and well, adults as well as school kids have been practically brought up with viewing this picture, you know,
Well,
seeing this
how do you
picture.
feel about that? Would you have rather made your own original idea?
Well, I couldn't say about it. Well, in a way I would have, because it wouldn't have been as difficult with 6 figures in it as it would with 12 in it. But then again, I figured out, well, this picture being more well known, that would be better to. Merle Anderson did too. We thought that we'd better make it like the way she suggested. So we agreed on that. So I went ahead and made the model.
Well, how did you know how to do that? Where did you get your training to make a model like that?
Just practical experience, that's all. I never went to art school. I went to art school in my life.
Well, where did you start out? Where did you run into model making like this?
Well, my dad made models for the Limestone Company
Your dad
and different contractors. Yeah, he contracted carving and modeling, and I took it up under my dad. And most of what I've done is just practical experience, you know.
And where's your dad from?
From Italy.
And did his father before him work in...
Oh, no. His father was a casket carpenter, made caskets.
But when your father came here, did he already have the training before he left Italy?
Yeah, I think he had some training. I wouldn't say, I don't know for sure if I remember what he said, because I was pretty young at the time, and then according to what he said, he did some, but he studied in New York City. I think it was Cooper Institute.
And then were you born here?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I can remember one time my dad contracted carving, and he had about 15 men working on one job. And that's when the boom was on, but right now...
When was the boom?
Oh, the boom was around just before the 30s. Yeah, just a little bit before the Depression. And that's when the boom was on. But now it's, well, it's kind of gradually getting better, but not like it never will be like it used to be, I don't think.
So when you started out, were you an apprentice?
I started out as an apprentice. Well, I originally started out to be a draftsman. And this mill where I started out in, why, it went in the hands of a receiver, and then I lost my job. So, and my dad talked me into serving apprenticeship under him. So that's what I did.
For how long?
4 years. In those days, we had to use a mallet for 3.5 years before we could use an air hammer. In the last 6 months, we got to use the air hammer, or pneumatic tool, whatever you call it.
So that explains why you were able to do the model for this project. You had that in your background.
Yeah.
Have all carvers in Bedford learned how to make models?
No, not all of them. There's been a few. There's one died a couple of years ago, Red Hitchcock, and he's a good modeler. Harry Easton was another one who was a good modeler. And Harry Lever, he was an Italian too. And he worked for Inglestone Company for a good many years, and he was a good carver and modeler. There's a few examples of his work around. There's one example of his work is on R Street. There's on the church there on R Street called the Free Methodist Church, and it's got a nice statue of Jesus on the side of the front of the building. We were talking about different operations for the carver or sculptor gets it from gets the stone right from the saw as a rule, and he takes over, and then he has to get the main measurements off his model. See the overall sizes. Generally, a statue, if it's full size, if the statue is full, the model is full size in relation to what's required to the stone, finished product, why we generally use a plate machine on it, see? And it's a framework with that you can get any angle what you want to get a certain point, you know. But before you can put that plate machine on your stone, you have to establish 3 main points where you're hanging the machine on. You've got to have a hook on that frame that goes on top of your head, on top of the head of the stone, and as well as on the model. And you establish that on a stone, the height, and you drill a hole up on top. But you may have to plumb bob it off or measure in from the front of that stone to get the location of that point, see? You can get it with a square with a piece of wood fastened to it, a long piece of wood, and with a square fastened on the bottom. Then you can measure in from a base, measure in, and locate that point, see? After you locate that point, then you've got to locate the 2 points down below on the base of the statue. That there's 2 pins on the point machine that rests on where you drill 2 points on that, like is established on your model, and you let it hang on, that whole thing hang on there, the frame on top of your head, and on those 2 points on the base.
They say, okay, we'll get a point right here. The first thing we'll do, we'll line up, and always remember to get your point right straight in. That way you won't cut anything off. It's something wrong there somewhere. Now when you get your point, just let it almost touch your stone and pull your needle back to where you will clear the rough, and take your machine and set it over here in the same setup as we have on our model. And push your needle in, and that will tell you how much rough has to come off, your location, depth, and everything right there. So when you get that point, you go from there to another high point someplace and plane that off. Get all the rough out of the way that you can. One point to another. Then you can always go back and get the next lower point. So that's just about it. All right, we'll just take this over here and get it now.
Okay. So you have about an inch here that you have to cut away to get that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that. Watch that right there. See your depth there?
Okay, that's
I've got that much to go.
You have to estimate that.
Yeah. Oh.
Let's see what it looks like then when you really attack the stone with your point. That's what you've got here. You use this when you're doing your rough work.
Yeah.
That's the only thing it's used for.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, just rough work, getting a 3-tooth rougher. Yeah. Down here, I don't want to hammer too much here, so I'll take a saw and I'll relieve it with a saw, see?
Oh, is that what you've done here?
Yeah.
That you actually use an air saw. This one. Right there.
I cut in here, cut in there, and up this way. Well, that mud came up here, see? I was after this foot, so I got that out of my way so I could go straight in.
Okay.
Thing you have to watch is the grain of your stone.
Which way does the grain run?
All right, the grain runs this way.
So you're cutting with the grain right now.
That's right.
First, you get your main rough off, like for instance from here to here, and get your rough out of the way, you know, when you get those points the same way like from here to here. Then you come back afterwards and you get little closer measurements, like from here to here, and then from here to here, you know, and the eyebrows, and you shape it out with 2 chisels, you know, and the closer you get with your points, why, the closer you get with a finer 2 chisels, see, and then after you get all your points, that's your necessary points, well, then you clean it up with a fine 2 chisel, and then afterwards with a plain chisels. Say, for instance, I wanted to get to cut the shape of that mouth, you know. Well, it takes too much time to measure too many thicknesses and breadth and heights and all this and that. Or a lot of it we have to kind of sight by eye and take the small chisels and, like for instance, if this part of the mouth right here, which is straight across, practically straight across on the lower lip, while down to the corner of the mouth where we just angle off and get the main angles cut in first, the shaping, general shaping, that before we cut in the space between the lips. And we use smaller chisels and a smaller air hammer for finishing, see? And we use chisels like this for finishing, some flat, what they call flat gouges, not gouge very much, to do the shaping. And like, now here's a little hollow here while we use gouges and use the curved side, the concave side of it to cut that hollow and kind of shape it and smooth it up. And some places you use the convex side of the chisel to cut the, you know, like the round part of the face. Well, and for finishing, we always use a small air hammer, and then again sometimes a real fine detail where an air hammer may vibrate too much. We take in order to get a real close finish, we use a mallet and a chisel and just kind of wash it and take our time and get the contour of it, and then even push on it with our hands and get the proper detail. If I had a mallet here, well, like for instance that eyelid, you know, I may use it to kind of go around that curve with and then push on it like this. And whereas with the air hammer, you know, kind of the vibration, well, you can get pretty close, but you can't. You can get the better feel of it and take your time more and get the fine detail with a mallet and chisel. But a long time ago, that's all they had was a air hammer. I mean mallet and chisel. Now we got the pneumatic tool.
Now, would that be the last step then? The last detail, is that the end? Is that the last thing you would do? Would be to...
No. Well, after we got it all, you know, cut down pretty good with the chisel, well, we take some emery cloth, see, and kind of clean it down, you know, rub it down, which smooths it up better. But there are occasions, though, when it's best not to use, like sandpaper or anything like that. It kind of kills the life of the carving. It makes it look too mechanical looking, like it's cast.
Now, none of these are sanded very fine.
Well, pretty clean, but not real fine. We use a medium grit emery cloth.
Are these inset into the block of the boat?
Yeah, they have what they call a lug on the bottom of each figure. There's a thickness of stone, slightly smaller than, most of them are slightly smaller than the width of the statue. But there's a few in here with a base on it, like George over here, is a little wider than the statue. And in order to take care of the, you know, drapery and the foot outstretched and some other ornament inside it. And but that's all been cut out, recessed down into the stone, epoxied in place.
Shoot some of these little kids right up close on you. I mean, this is obviously the folklore importance of it. brought everything to a standstill.
Well, a fellow can learn all the time. You can pick up, especially a lot of different jobs come in, you can learn a lot of different things. In other words, you've got to figure out a lot of stuff too. You've got to use your own judgment, you know. You can't just, it's not like working from going to art school. When you go to art school, you just you work from some established things or models. It's all, in other words, stock stuff. And here in the Stonebelt and under apprenticeship, why, you get plenty of time to learn the tricks of the trade and how to go about using your own judgment to figure out stuff in the everyday carving.